If you want to get people never to watch the WNBA, this is an amazing way to do it. If the league is going to be rooted in this sort of nastiness with regard to its only real star, good luck to them. Well, folks, the left has a real problem in the United States. They've spent the last several decades talking about how racism is an endemic problem in American life. And there's a problem with that problem, which is there's not enough racism for them. They require instances of racism in order to support the idea that every maldistribution of outcome is, in fact, rooted in racism and white supremacy. And so they're constantly looking for their latest racial conflagration. It has to be a white on black racial conflagration, obviously, because white supremacy and white privilege and all the rest. The latest iteration of this comes courtesy of the WNBA. So it is amazing to be discussing the WNBA, like seriously at the top of a show, because let's face it, the last time anyone cared about the WNBA was when Brittany Griner, who will arise in a moment, was actually freed from captivity in Russia after having brought marijuana product into Russia, genius move, and then being essentially kidnapped by the Russian government. And then we had to trade an arms dealer for her. I will say that based on some of her late comments, I'm not sure that we got the better end of that particular deal. In any case, the WNBA entered into an investigation over the course of the past couple of weeks because there were allegations that fans were being racist during a game between the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever. And yes, I should get points for knowing the names of both of those teams. The Indiana Fever is, of course, the team of Caitlin Clark, who's the only player in the WNBA who seems to matter right now. And the Chicago Sky are the team of Angel Reese, who is sort of her arch nemesis and has been since her college days. So the allegations arose after there was a foul by Caitlin Clark on Angel Reese. It was called a flagrant. If you watch the video, it's pretty clearly not a flagrant foul, just by any basketball standard. Basically, Angel Reese goes up for a layup, and Caitlin Clark doesn't clothesline or anything, kind of grabs her, and Angel Reese falls over. And there were allegations that people in the stands were then being racist. So the league immediately launched an investigation into these alleged racist comments. And the WNBA had responded with a statement confirming the investigation. Quote, the WNBA strongly condemns racism, hate, and discrimination in all forms. They have no place in our league or in society. We are aware of the allegations and are looking into the matter. Now, there was no evidence at the time that any of this was true. And given the fact that cell phones are ubiquitous and that everybody now tapes everybody else saying anything racist, the chances that this actually happened in real life were extremely, extremely low, especially at like a WNBA game. Hey, who are the white supremacists showing up at a WNBA game? Seriously. The white privilege folks who are like, you know what? We don't like black people and we're super white nationalist. So we're going to a WNBA game. What is the crossover between those two circles? There's like no crossover in that Venn diagram. It didn't matter. Caitlin Clark was then forced to go out there and make a statement. And every time Caitlin Clark makes one of these statements, blink if you need help, Caitlin. Here she was after the game saying that there's no place for racism in the game.
There's no place for that in our game. There's no place for that in society. And, certainly we want every person that comes into our arena, whether player, whether fan, to have a great experience. So I appreciate the league doing that. I appreciate, the Fever organization has been at the forefront of that since, really day one and what they're doing. So we'll, hopefully the investigation, we'll leave that up to them to find anything and take the proper action if so.
Well, I mean, she needed to say that, because if she hadn't said that, then you would have thought that the WNBA was just filled with deep and abiding racism, obviously. And of course, this is not the first time that Caitlin Clark has been forced to go to the camera and then speak the words, say the thing. So not all that long ago, 2024, December, she came out and she had to acknowledge her own white privilege. Now, can we be clear about this? If Caitlin Clark were not in the WNBA, we would not be talking about the WNBA. She is the only ticket draw in the WNBA. A large percentage of all tickets sold in the WNBA are so people can watch Caitlin Clark play basketball. No one cares about Angel Reese. Should be drawing flies if she were playing not against Caitlin Clark on the court right now. Angel Reese has basically become the Bill Laimbeer to Caitlin Clark's Larry Bird, essentially. That is where we now are. We'll get to more on this in a moment. First, folks, we are seeing something truly disturbing. Anti-Semitism is on the rise around the world and sadly right here in the United States. Jewish schools are being targeted, synagogues threatened, families living in fear. It's something that many of us hoped we wouldn't see again in our lifetime. And let me say, silence is not really a great option here. It's a good moment to take a stand. That's why I want to tell you about the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, or IFCJ. They're on the front lines providing real help where it's needed most. They're giving food and shelter to Jewish families under threat, building bomb shelters for children, helping survivors of hate rebuild their lives. They don't just respond to crisis, they work every day to prevent it. Your gift of only $45 will help support their life-saving work by helping provide food, shelter, and much more. The Bible says in Genesis 12:3, I will bless those who bless you. Supporting IFCJ is a spiritual stand. It's showing up for God's people when it counts. Every dollar helps. Don't wait. Be the difference. Visit benforthefellowship.org. Again, that's benforthefellowship.org. They're doing amazing work on the ground in the Holy Land. Go check them out right now and help out. benforthefellowship.org. That's benforthefellowship.org. Well, here was Caitlin Clark back in December acknowledging her white privilege because there were so many players in the WNBA who were getting angry that people are out watching Caitlin Clark. Really, this is a thing inside the WNBA. There are a bunch of players in the WNBA who are angry that Caitlin Clark is bringing notoriety to their sport. Their idea is, why didn't people watch the WNBA before? The answer is because Caitlin Clark is uniquely talented and, yes, uniquely appealing. And is some of that based on race? Well, I mean, there are other white players in the WNBA who don't have remotely this kind of following. So I really don't think that that's the reason. She was a wildly popular player when she was in college. Was that also based on her race or based on the fact that she was hitting threes like an NBA player? Well, back in December, she actually had to issue a statement in which she suggested that there's an element of white privilege in her stardom. Quote, I feel like I've earned every single thing that's happened to me over the course of my career, but I also grew up a fan of this league from a very young age. My favorite player was Maya Moore. I knew what this league was about. She said, like I said, the WNBA has only been around 25 plus years. Only, by the way. And they've never earned a profit until like this very moment, maybe. I know there's been so many amazing black women that have been in this league, and continuing to uplift them, I think, is very important. That's something I'm aware of, is what she told Time magazine. She said, I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of these players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to try to continue to change that, she added. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing. Now, hilariously enough, her presence in the league is elevating many of the black players around her who nobody knew about until 5 minutes ago. But she's been the one who has been targeted by so many people in the WNBA. And in fact, there are entire compilations of people basically laying hard fouls on Caitlin Clark last season, now putting her in danger of actually getting hurt. In fact, she recently was hurt, and it turns out that a bunch of fans are very unhappy about it and have decided that they are interested in essentially boycotting the entire WNBA over it. According to Total Pro Sports, there are a bunch of fans who are suggesting that the WNBA's failure to protect Clark, specifically because Clark is white and many of the players fouling her are black, that is in and of itself a problem and racist. So, again, there actually is some racism in the WNBA, but it's directed the opposite way. And that's the stuff you're not allowed to talk about. So I mentioned that we would speak about Brittany Griner. Brittany Griner was caught on tape during a game with the Indiana Fever, dropping racial slurs against Caitlin Clark. I mean, pretty obviously doing so.
Tech fouls that we were talking about earlier today.
And it doesn't take a lot of genius to lip read Brittany Griner, whose voice, by the way, is about as low as mine is, calling her trash and an effing white girl. Now, of course, if Caitlin Clark had ever suggested the same in reverse, using black as opposed to white in that sentence, that'd be the end of her WNBA career. But Brittany Griner is going strong. It's totally fine. Meanwhile, a former WNBA champ has actually come out and suggested that it's racism to talk about people hard fouling Caitlin Clark.
Like, we can talk about, people getting fouled. I just showed you my tooth getting knocked out. Like, that's been a part of the game. The game has always been physical. I can tell you the amount of times I've left with bloody lips and eyes. I have bruises all over my body, even from the game last night. You can see bruises on my elbow from last night. Like, right. It's just a part of the game. So, like, if I'm just going to be frank, it's all, what it is racism.
Oh, so that's racism now. So the way that it works is if no racism happens in the stands, the WNBA does a full investigation. If there are hard fouls on Caitlin Clark every night and Brittany Griner is using slurs, like pretty openly, against Caitlin Clark, then it's racism to even pay attention to any of that. You see, everything has to end in racism. If you were to create a flow chart, what it would look like is something racist didn't happen, therefore investigate racism. or something maybe racist happened but was against a white person, you mentioning this is also probably racism against black people. If you want to get people never to watch the WNBA, this is an amazing way to do it. Truly an amazing way to do it. Because if the league is going to be rooted in this sort of nastiness with regard to its only real star, good luck to them. And we'll see what the viewership is like in the WNBA. Truly idiocy. Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to check out all of the other great content on my channel. I'll see you here next time.